guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Choma Stitches and my name is Choma. It's so good to have all of you right back. If you're joining us for the first time, I want to say welcome to you, and for the old subscribers, I welcome you back. And for those who just joined us recently, I appreciate your support. Thank you guys for joining the family. On today's sewing tutorial, we're going to be making this gown, and if this is something you are interested in, definitely stick around to see how we achieve this. So I have a total of 6 yard fabric here, and I'm going to be using as much as I can possibly use from it, okay? Because it's going to be a very full dress. I don't mind exhausting the whole 6 yards. And then I have this lace fabric I'm going to be using for the sleeve. I want it to have a little short sleeve. I have a black lining here for the inner. I have my rulers, my scissors, my chalk, and my pins. Of course, you need your sewing machine and a matching thread and matching zipper to make this outfit. So let's start by drafting the upper bodice. And because it's going to be a basic upper bodice, I'm not going to be using paper drafting. I'll be drafting everything on my fabric. So we're going to be starting with the upper bodice. Now the full length of this gown is going to be 57 inches. The upper layer, that's the upper bodice, is going to be 16 inches. And then I'm going to be having a 10 inches flare that is going to now introduce the other layer, that's the third layer, that's going to be a gather. So the gather is going to be around the flare, which is why it's going to consume a lot of fabric, because you know that flare, the circumference of the edge of a flare is usually very wide, which you now have to accommodate a lot of gather for it to, you know, get to the round the circumference, okay, of the edge of the flare. So what I'm going to be drafting now is the upper bodice, which is 16 inches, and the back is going to be 14 inches. So the back is going to be 2 inches shorter than the front, okay? So note that. And for you to make the back and front align, I'm going to be taking out the darts from the bust area. If you've been following my channel, you know that I always do my bust darts for even basic bodies. I like to take out bust darts. It helps with fitting. Alright, so I'm going to mark out 16 inches, but I'll make it 16.5 inches because half an inch will be used to join the upper bodice to the flare part of the dress. Next, I'm going to mark out my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5 inches. I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch for the shoulder slanting because this is the front. Now from the top, I'm going to come down by 8.3 inches for my armhole. To get your armhole curve, you divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5. Whatever you get, you're supposed to impute it from the 1 inch shoulder slanting for the back. So you start from your 1 inch shoulder slanting for the back. That's where you impute your armhole curve. But since I'm drafting the front part first, I have to start from the top and add 1 inch. That's the 1 inch shoulder slanting for the back to make it 8.3 inches. I hope you understand my explanation. I'm just going to mark out this here. Now from here, I'm going to come down to 10.5 inches, my bust measurement. And I'll mark 13.5 inches for my under bust. So I'm just going to mark out this line like this. And then we're going to impute our bust measurement. My bust measurement is 35 inches divided by 4 is going to be 8.75. You mark 8.75. For my waist measurement, my waist is 28 inches. 28 divided by 4 is going to be 7 inches. When you add 1.5 inch for the dart, because I'm taking out 1.5 inch dart for the lower part, I'm going to have 8.5 inches. So you mark 8.5 inches. And then my underbust is 27 inches, which will be 6.75. So my underbust is 6.75. I'm going to add the dart for this one after I've taken out the darts here. Okay, so take out my darts. I'm going to mark out 4 inches. I'm using the bust point for my guide. That's the nipple to nipple measurement, and I'm going to come to this place to the bust line and I'll mark the 4 inches as well. Now I'm going to connect this line, and then I'm going to take out my 1.5 inch from the waistline, 0.75 here, 0.75 here. You can come down like 1 inch from the bust and mark out your darts. So now that I have taken out the darts, around the under bust, you are going to measure what you have here as the darts. What I have here is like 1 inch. That is what I am going to add to the under bust as my darts allowance. Okay, so I can connect these marks now. Connect this to this and connect this to this. Now, like I said, Now I'm going to be taking out 2 inches from the front to align with the back, because the back half length is going to be 14 inches, while the front half length we are working with 16 inches. Okay, so that difference between the front and the back we're going to be taking out from the bust dart. So from the bust line, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. Okay, and I want to, half of it is 1 inch. I'm indicating this is where my dart is going to align. Okay, so from here I'm going to be taking out a dart. So I'm going to mark it out from here like so. Take out the dart here, take it out like so, and then I'm going to connect this to this 1 inch away from the bust line. Okay, from the bust point you go out by 1 inch. That is from here, since my marking already started from there. Okay, so your bust point is 8 inches, divided by 2 will be 4. So from here, this is the bust point, you go out by 1 inch, which already our bust line started from. It's a coincidence, but it's perfect. So from this 1 inch, that's where you take out your bust dart. I'm going to roll my bust dart. Now, since we are drafting everything on the main fabric, I'm going to be imputing the sewing allowance of 1.5 inch. I will impute it also around this triangle that I created for the bust dart guide. 1.5 inch here, 1.5 inch here, 1.5 inch here. I'm going to move this triangle that I marked out for the bust dart. I'll move it again. I'll move it to this side. So from here, I'm going to mark my 2 inches again. From here, mark the half of it, which is 1 inch, and I'm going to take out that triangle. This triangle is going to help guide me when I'm taking out the darts. That is the only purpose of it. So from here, you can just extend this dart line like so. Instead of using this second triangle, you can now expand it by using all of this, because this will be even more accommodating. So from here, you can just, from the pointed line from the center here, you're going to just rule it to get your new dart center. You can now create another triangle there. This is why I like to draft on paper, so that it doesn't cluster like this around the fabric. But please bear with me. I hope you understand what I'm doing. Okay, now let's mark out our armhole, which I have omitted for too long. So I'm going to take out my 7.5 inches from here, from the armhole line. I will connect it, and then I'll go up by 3.5 inches or 3 inches, and I'll come in by half of an inch. I'll connect it with a straight line to the shoulder slanting, and then I'll use my curved ruler to curve the armhole. Now you see that I curved the armhole to my exact bust measurement. Now from here, you can add maybe half of an inch for joining the armhole to the sleeve. Okay, now let's work on the neckline. So for the neckline, I'm going to use 3.5 inches. So the width is 3.5 inches, which is what I'm going to use for the back as well. Then from the front depth, I'm going to come down to 8 inches or 8.5 inches. I want it to have a V, a semi-V shape. So from here, I am going to be using my curved ruler to curve this. And then use your ruler to slant your shoulder line. Now if you are slanting it directly to this place, I find that it might kind of reduce your sleeve a bit. So for me to slant it, what I usually do is I'll mark my bust divided by 12. So mine usually 2.8 or something, so around here. And I'm going to start from there and connect the shoulder slanting to that place, instead of to the point where our neckline starts. Now at the shoulder line as well, you're going to be adding half an inch for joining shoulder of the front to the back. Okay, now you can also decide to add 1/4 of an inch here. This one is basically so that you don't eat into the fabric when you are sewing the neckline. The reason why I'm adding all of these allowances is because if I had drafted this with my pattern paper, I will still add all these allowances. So because I drafted it on the main fabric, I still have to add the allowances. Okay, it helps to give you a neatly finished work. So at this down part, now since I'm cutting out this part, I'm going to be making a triangle around my dart line here. It will also help you with, it makes it easy for you to find your dart line. Now this is the front bodice. I'm going to cut it out. Okay, Now I'm going to use this to cut out the lining exactly like this. But first, let's draft the back. Since I added half an inch to the front, making the front 16.5 inches, because I'm going to use the half an inch to join the upper bodice to the lower bodice, I'm going to make in the back piece as well 14.5 inches. Shoulder measurement 7.5 inches. Come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slanting. And then from this shoulder slanting, I'm going to mark my armhole curve, which is 7.3 inches. At this point, I'll mark out the shoulder again, the 7.5 again, connect it, go up by half of the measurement. So just divide the measurement into 2, and then from this center, come in by half of an inch. So just connect it to your shoulder slanting. Use the armhole curve to curve the armhole, and then from here I'm going to take out the neckline. The neckline depth is 3.5 inches. That's what I use for the front. For the back, I'm only going to come down by, say, okay, so I've made a mistake. I'm going to restart this again. This is why I like to draft on paper, because the back is going to be having 1 inch for zip allowance. I'm going to first mark out this 1 inch. So this is my zip allowance. So from here you can now start imputing your measurements. So 7.5 inches for the shoulder, 7.5 inches here. Let's connect the line. And then for the neckline, I am using the 3.5 inches for the width. And for the depth, I'm just going to come down by half an inch or 1 inch. Just curve it like so. And then use my ruler to slant it. And from here, you can just add all your allowance, shoulder, half an inch. And then for the neckline, 1/4 of an inch. From the shoulder line, we'll come down to 10.5 inches, indicating the bust measurement. Okay, now I'm going to take out the dart. I'm going to mark my 4 inches. I'm starting from the 1 inch away, that from the zip, after the zip allowance. You mark your 4 inches, and then take out the 1.5 inch dart, 0.75 on each side. So like I mentioned before, you can also give it a little triangle at the end here to help with finding your darts very easily. For my waist measurement, my waist is 28 inches. So 28 divided by 4 is 7 inches. If you mark 7 inches here, you will now add 1.5 inch for your darts here. And then 1.5 inch for the sewing allowance here. Okay. My bust is 35 inches divided by 4 is 8.75 inches. Plus 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. So this is what I have. Also, remember to add your half of an inch for the armhole for joining the sleeve. Half of an inch allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this pattern out. Now I'm going to be taking out the zip tightening at the back of half of an inch. So I'm going to just rule half of this zip allowance, take out half of it, and then you can slant it towards the bust line or towards the armhole line. Okay, so you can go ahead and open up this pattern, but I'm just going to use it to keep it together until I cut out the lining piece. Okay, so we're going to cut out the lining piece like this. Now next we are going to be cutting out the next layer of the dress, which will be the circle part of it. But let me just fold my fabric. So to get my circle, I have folded my fabric. Look at what I did. I just picked one side or one end of the fabric and I folded it into a triangle. So this is going to be like the front piece, and then when you cut out the second one, it will be the back piece. Okay, now to get this my measurement, I'm going to come down from here to 10 inches. So this is where this ends, please. So this is where this circle ends. So when you take this out like this, you have 7.5 inches. Now my waist measurement is 28 inches, which will be divided by 4 is going to be 7 inches, which means I have extra half an inch that is going to be for the seam allowance. but I want my sewing allowance to be up to 1.5 inch around the waist area. So for that, I'm going to come down. So I'm just going to come down by, say, 1 inch more, make it 11 inches. I'm going to come down to 11 inches. So from here I have 8.5 inches. This is perfect. 7 inches is my waist measurement, and 1.5 inch will be the sewing allowance on each side. Okay, so this is okay for me. So from here I can now mark out my 10 inches. Like I said, the second layer is going to be 10 inches in the length. Now we are going to make it 11 inches because we'll have 1/2 inch to join this first layer to the top upper bodice, and then 1/2 inch to join this one to the lower bodice. That's the third layer. Alright, so this is the second layer. So I'm going to use this as a guide to cut out the back piece because the back is going to be having zip allowance. Now for the back, for the zip allowance, I'm also going to take out 1/2 inch that I took out at the top part. So since this is going to be the back piece, I'm going to take out the 1/2 inch as well that I'm supposed to take out for the darts, for the back tightening. Okay. Now the last layer of this dress is going to be, that's the third layer, is going to be 31 inches in length. You can now add your 1 inch for hemming, 1 inch for hemming, and then 1/2 inch for joining it to the upper layer, which will now arrive as 32.5 inches. Okay, so and this is going to be cut straight. I'm just going to cut out a straight 32.5 inches. Now you can make it as full as you want. At the end of the day, just note that you're trying to gather it to fit in around the circumference of this base. That's the second layer. So whatever you have here, depending on how full you want it to be, because it's going to be a gather, you can measure this. Now let's say for the front part, now I have okay, what I have here is 16, so that will be 32 inches for only the front, which means whatever I am cutting out here has to be like 3 times 32 inches. You either make it twice the measurement you have for this one to create your gather, or you make it 3.5 the measurement, or 2.5, or add extra to it. Just make sure that whatever you are adding is going to be that longer than 32 inches. Since the base here is 32 inches, whatever you are going to add to it as the third layer has to be very longer than 32 inches for you to have the gather effect. If you make it exactly 32 inches, it's just going to look like a straight line you added to it. It won't have any gather effect. But so you have to make it, if you can make it twice the measurement, it will have a little bit of gather effect around it. So the more fabric you add to it, the fuller the gather is going to be. So I'm just going to measure what I have here and see if I can exhaust it. So I have cut it out. This is the part I'm taking out. This length now is 32.5 inches, what I have here, and I've cut it into two. The top layer is going to be for the front, and as you can see, the back is 1 inch wider than the front. This is for our zip allowance. I'm just going to open it up. The width I have is 34 inches divided into 2. So I have 68 inches as the width that will be gathered. Okay, so the circumference of this part, this second layer, is 32 inches when you open it up. But what I have here as the circumference, that's the length, the width of this one, okay, is 34 inches times 2, which means it is twice the circumference of this one, okay, plus extra, which is what you want. You can make yours more than this. You can make yours wider than 68 inches. As you are seeing my own now, you already know the fullness of when you double the measurement. So if you now want yours to be fuller, which means you can triple the width, okay, to get the fullness. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and run a loose stitch at the edge of this one, because we're going to be gathering it to this second layer. I'm going to run a loose stitch here, and gather it to the second layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and take out this dart. Now for this dart, I am taking it out fabric dart differently, the lining piece dart differently. Okay, so I'm going ahead to take out the darts. This is the lining pieces. Like I said, I took out the darts differently, lining piece differently. So look at how the bust dart cups this area. See how it gives you that bustier effect. Okay, so this is it. This is the main fabric, and this is the right side. So I'm going to iron these dart lines so they will be almost invisible. Okay, look at what this has done. Even though it's a basic bodice, the bust dart has given it this cupped effect that just shows the bust area. Okay, so this is the effect of bust dart, and I'm going to iron the bust dart downwards, and I've taken out the dart for the back pieces as well. So I'm going to iron it, and then I'll start using the lining pieces to sew. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the neckline and top stitch it, and also sew the neckline for the front piece and top stitch it. Okay, so and then you iron it out. Now taking out the dart now, even though the front half length is 16.5 inches and the back is 14.5 inches, that's including the half-inch sewing allowance. Okay, you will see that these places, they are now aligning. Okay, the length on the side are now aligning because of the dart you take out. Okay, so I have completely ironed it and I have sewn the neckline. This is the back piece, one of the back pieces, and this is the front. Look at how nice, look at how this is coming out. Are you seeing the effect of the bust dart? So it's time to start joining it. Okay, and I'm going to start joining it lining piece to lining piece and main fabric to main fabric. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to go ahead and sew the second layer and sew for the back piece as well. I will also sew the lining piece to the lining piece. So here I've gone ahead to sew it. Look at how it looks. This is the back piece. Now it's time to attach the third layer. So I'm going to take this. This is the one for the front piece, and as you can see, I have run a loose stitch at the top here. That's the way where I'm going to start attaching it. So I'm going to find the middle of this fabric. I've pinned down the center, and I'm going to take the center of this third layer. So now I'll take the edges and I'll start pulling on the thread. I'll start pulling on the loose thread on one of them to gather it. You already know how to gather a dress, I'm sure. So when you've gotten the part that you feel like this is the length is matching each other, you're going to tie the knot, and then you will evenly distribute the gather. So I'm going to go ahead and sew. This is one piece of the back. This is it. This is the second layer, and this is the third layer. I have sewn it, start gathering it. Now I'm going to also attach the lining. Now for the lining piece, I did not make the lining piece 3 layers like I made the main fabric. Okay, the lining piece is just 2 layers. So you have the upper bodice and the down parts. I cut the lining piece straight, just like I did the third layer for the main fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and sew it in reverse so that all the sewing will be inside when this falls on this. Okay, all these rough joinings will be inside. Okay, that doesn't mean you're not going to weave it, but it just gives you a cleaner work. So I'm going to also go ahead and gather this around here, and I'll complete it for all of them. So I have sewn the lower bodice and sewn the lining as well. Look how it looks. It's becoming really very full. So, and I've done the same thing for the back pieces as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew the zipper. So I've pinned down the zip allowance where I'm going to sew it, and the zip is going to be stopping here. So I'm going to sew the zip and stop here. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all hold down here with 1 inch zip allowance all the way to the down part, and then I'm going to sew the zipper and stop here. So this is an old sleeve pattern I have, and I want to use it for the sleeve I'm going to put on this dress. Okay, now I added 1/4 inch sewing allowance to it, which I'm going to be extending. I want to believe we all know how to draft a basic sleeve. If you don't, I'm going to leave a link in the description box on how I drafted this particular sleeve, so you can check it out. Then I'm just going to reduce the length because I want this sleeve to be very short. Okay, I could use a sleeve 6 inches, so I can just make this 7 inches because I want to use 1 inch for hemming. So I'm going to cut this out. So I'm going to use a hemming gum to hem the down part of this lace. Okay, so I'm just going to place a hemming gum on the side and iron it, and use a steam iron to place it down to keep it together. So I'm not going to be sewing it. Okay, so I'm gonna have to sew the zipper and aligned all the lines together. I'm going to join the shoulders. So I've gone ahead to join the shoulders. I want to cut out the cape that will be around the sleeve, cut out the pocket that's going to be on the dress, and then attach the sleeve. And this is the sleeve. I've gone ahead to use hemming gum to hem the edge, and it's looking neat. So this is the fabric I want to use for my pocket. I'm just going to use my hand as a guide. Okay, I'm just going to follow my hand and just sketch it out. So this is enough for me. So this is the pocket I'm going to be attaching to the dress. I'm going to show us how to attach this. And this is for the sleeve design. And for the sleeve design, I just cut out a long rope that's as long as 27 inches by 6.5 inches. I'm going to fold in the right side this way, and then fold it in half. I already folded this one, so I'm just going to place it on top of it. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to just create a slant curve around here. So I'm going to start from the edge here and just work my way through. As I go further, I increase the space. Okay, and like this is what I have. I'm going to trim this out. Now to attach this, so I'm going to turn it to the right side. Okay, using the right side, fold it to get the center, and then from the center I'm going to start attaching it. So I'm going to place this first before the sleeve, and I'm going to go ahead and start pleating it. I'm going to start pleating this, whatever direction you want to take it. Now towards the end here, I'm going to move this end this way so that it will be sewn. The rough part is going to be sewn when you are attaching the sleeve, so we don't leave any part fraying out of the dress. Look at this. So I'm going to do the same thing now. You can decide to do a key split so that the pleats will go in opposite directions. Now you're going to first of all sew this, and this is how it's going to come out at the edge of the sleeve. Okay, and then you can now place the sleeve on it. And then you take the sleeve and you start attaching it the same way. I'm going to go ahead and sew the sleeves for both sides. So here I've gone ahead to sew the sleeve, as you can see, and this is how it looks. Don't forget to do your inner weaving. So now I'm going to attach the pocket. So to attach the pocket, you're going to take your measurement to your waistline, wherever you know that you would prefer your pocket to be. on your dress. So that's where you are going to put it. And so for me, I am going to take my tape and I'll come down by 9 inches around my waistline. This is where I am going to start attaching the pocket. So I'm going to place this one like this. So I'm going to go ahead and sew with 0.75 inch. I'll attach the pocket the same way on this other side and also on the back piece of the dress. Okay guys, we're almost done. If at this point you are yet to subscribe to my channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you get notified whenever I drop a new video. And also you can share this video so that this community can grow. I would really appreciate that. I want to especially thank some of you who take time to write comments in the comment section, and those who like my videos. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. Okay, so I've attached the pocket as you can see, and I've ironed it. The reason why I ironed it is because if you don't iron it before you join the sides, after you join the sides, it becomes difficult to iron your pocket flat like this. So it is always advisable you iron it before you start joining the sides. So I have pinned this side, I've pinned it together. So I'm going to go ahead and sew all the way down. Sew here, do my inner weaving, and then hem the edge of the dress, and then I will try it on and show us how it looks. I'd like to see your practicals when you try yours. You can post them on our Facebook group at Creative Tailoring and Styling. See you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.